Good afternoon to my friends in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. My name is Andre Prince. It's my wife, Nyla John. And today we just wanted to share our reaction to the 2025 elections in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I just took a moment to listen to the former Prime Minister's address to the nation. And I must say that I'm happy that he did make the address. But I do believe, at the end of it, my analysis of the speech still leaves me quite disappointed. As you know, I'm from St. Vincent, but I have a very strong athletic background before going to college, and I earned a scholarship to go to college as well. But one of the things I learned as an athlete is you must be gracious. Not only, I'm sure you would agree with this as well.
Yes, of course.
You must be gracious in victory as well as in defeat, and that's the kind of thing that I believe that we've been lacking, as we were looking to leadership in St. Vincent and the Grenadines for over the last 25 years. We've been seeing a lot of anger, a lot of animosity, a lot of this type of venom. But what we really need, especially...
We also saw a lot of arrogance. And the way that people were treated. They weren't treated with respect and dignity. And we saw it a lot in their campaign. There was a lot of anger, and that has also spilled over to the people, where people are very, very angry. I mean, when I visited in May, we recognized that people were very angry, and maybe due to the state of the country and the pressure that they were living under. But I always tell people that when you're leaders, you need to be humble. You need to have humility. You need to respect the people that put you in power. You need to be kind and loving, and there must be a sense of peace. I would say that I really commend Dr. Friday for his speech. I mean, it was just immaculate. And he also wore a white shirt. When he came off of the ferry on Friday, he wore a white shirt. And a white shirt is a representation of peace, unity, togetherness. He didn't wear a yellow shirt. He didn't wear a red shirt. But he really spoke to his people, and he spoke about that unity and that involvement of everyone, not just the NDP, but the entire nation. And as a national of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you guys would know me from my work in my nonprofits, both Rights, Hiruna, and Loving SVG. As a national, I'm a born Canadian, but I've lived in St. Vincent for about 13 years of my life. And as a national, I believe in involving everyone for the development of the nation. And we should respect our people. We should ask their opinions, right? And I think what has happened is sometimes people say power corrupts. It doesn't corrupt. It reveals who you truly are.
Yeah, especially money. Money and power absolutely reveals more of who you are. Money, I don't believe money corrupts you in any way. Money is really just a tool to be used, as the owner sees fit. But the thing is that what money does, it allows you to get away with a lot, and when somebody is able to get away with something, that's when you really see the true colors of their character.
That's right.
Are you going to stand up and say what is right and what is wrong, or are you going to just do whatever you feel like doing, right? Is there any type of code that you're living by?
That's right.
So that's the thing. But one of the things I said, I only listened to the first minute, and I just wanted you guys to just take a second here. I'm going to pop the video up on the screen, and I'm just going to have you guys just take a listen here for just a second. Listen to us to the first minute and tell me what you think is missing in this address to the nation. Take a listen.
The people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and of the Caribbean and the world. 2 days ago, on November the 27th, a free and democratic people participated in competitive elections which resulted in a change of government. I congratulate the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, including those who supervised and managed the electoral process and the relevant democratic state institutions, for their continued commitment to popular democracy. We in the Unity Labour Party are not among those who insist that democracy only works when we win and cry foul when we lose. We in the ULP always accept the will of the people, whether we win or lose elections. Indeed, our great party has contributed immensely to the building of the democratic institutions that underpin our electoral democracy.
So after looking at that 1 minute, the first minute of the address, to me, the first thing that is missing is he didn't congratulate his opponents.
Yeah, and he should have. I'm actually really shocked because I know him personally, and I mean, when I first moved to St. Vincent as a young girl, he used to plug in, him and Julian Francis. They would plug in, and I used to go with my parents to listen to him at the shops.
Right.
And you know, I really appreciated him as a politician. I mean, I have a distinction in history because of Ralph Gonsalves. He taught me, you know, my SBA was on revolution.
Right.
And so I am really shocked that he did not congratulate, right? I mean, you have been defeated and defeated by 14-1. So it's the will of the people. If you truly believe in a democracy, this means that it was the will of the people. The people said we really wanted a change, and we gave we gave the NDP 14 seats and you only one. So that says a lot. The people were very disappointed in the way that you were governing. Yeah. And so he should have truly, be humble and say, you know what, I have governed for 25 years. Thank you for the time. Thanks to my people, and congratulate the opposition on their victory. Yeah. Because, Ralph Gonsalves, he was in opposition for decades. Right. And so when he came to power, I'm positive that James Mitchell would have congratulated him. Sorry, at the time it would have been Annem Eustace. He would have congratulated him. And I believe that we really need to sometimes reflect and look within, right? We have to look within and say we have done something wrong. And so I'm hoping that he will come back and give those remarks of congratulation to the opposition.
Right. And not only just for his sake, but for the sake of his party, for the sake of the ULP, if the ULP is going to survive this, because this was a trashing. I mean,
it really was.
This was a serious trashing. When I didn't even expect.
Yeah, I was shocked 14-1. Out of my wits that it would be 14-1.
I was thinking it was going to be maybe a 9-6.
Yeah, Kay Backus said the
something
same
like
thing.
That.
She said she thought it would be about 9-10. Yeah. But I was shocked to see the overwhelming support that the opposition got. Listen. And in saying that, I mean, yes, the governing party now has 14 seats, and the opposition, which is the Unity Labour Party, has 1. There's one thing that I would like to say to my fellow Vincentians. As a national of your beautiful nation, my father's a Vincentian, my mother is Ugandan, and having the honor of growing up in this country and forming the friendships and the relationships and the work that myself and my nonprofit, my board, my executive has done over the last 13 years, I have really grown to love this nation and love its people. Whenever I come to St. Vincent, people are so kind to me. I mean, the last time I came, my suitcase was overweight coming back because I had Mudungu bakes that Sherry Ann Kane gave to me and breadfruit. I mean, I remember Andre's uncle, Regional Thomas. Oh my God. He said to me, Nyla, where are you going? Did you go to the market? And it was just such overwhelming love from the people, right? And I really want to see St. Vincent and the Grenadines grow. I want to see it truly develop. It's good to build buildings because you need infrastructure, right? You're an engineer, so you need infrastructure. My father was in the construction industry for 30 years and built many of the buildings and roads, and so did my grandfather that you guys drive on in that nation. So I understand what development means, but we need to make sure that we hold our governments accountable. We need to understand that they work for us, we don't work for them.
And also, in that same vein, in that same vein, we expect a certain standard of behavior.
Correct.
Right? And I think
Correct.
this is what has been missing. And honestly, I would like to take the time to commend Carmelo Gonsalves and Soboto Caesar for making the concession speeches that they did, because that raises the standard, that raises the expectation.
Correct.
Okay,
Of what we expect of our politicians.
Yes,
and
I expected to see something from Ralph more along the lines
sentiments where,
of that.
you know,
and
Carmelo and Soboto would have done that,
right?
And I commend them. I commend them for doing that. You know, but we really need to lift the standards.
Yes.
We really need to start holding our governments accountable. The NDP has 14 seats, so they are overwhelming the majority.
Yes.
And they need to fulfill the promises that they would have said to people on their campaign trail, in their manifesto. One of the things that I would like to speak to is, for about, I would say about 8 years or more, we have been advocating at the time to the present government for a sex offenders registry as a nonprofit. And we also presented it to the opposition. And it is so heartwarming to see that they put into their manifesto that they're going to implement a sex offenders registry. So I can't wait to help them. We can't wait to help them. The entire nonprofit, we're elated to be able to lend our support there. And that you're also going to support shelters, and we are
Absolutely.
in the process of doing that.
Absolutely.
And so we you know, there was and also a forensic lab.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
we need to start solving the many crimes that we have in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I saw, I think it was yesterday, that someone was murdered in Layou, a woman. She was shot.
My goodness.
You know, so we need to be able to work hand in hand with the government. We need to be able to, as nonprofits and NGOs, we are here to help you guys. We're not here to work against you. We're here to help you. And as a national of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I really would love to see all of your promises implemented.
Absolutely. And as going back to my previous point, for the sake of the party, and the reason I wanted to share that 1-minute clip of his speech, because I really don't think the ULP is going to survive with this type of leadership. If Ralph Gonsalves continues down the road that he's going, I don't see the ULP being able to survive, because it seems like he doesn't want to acknowledge the whipping that he just got at the polls.
Yes.
You know, you want to talk about, he went back to the scenario about, complaining, not complaining when they lose, and, basically just kind of trying to throw pot shots at the NDP. At this time, it's not the time for that right now.
Yes, there needs
this is the time for
unity
and togetherness.
That's right.
But you have to learn, and I say this again and again and again. This is important. There's some things that you learn from being an athlete, and being in sports, because as an athlete, you work for years and years. You go through ups and downs, battles, and sometimes in life you still lose.
Definitely.
You could still go through. You could go through all the things, make all these sacrifices, but at the end of the day, somebody has to win
and somebody has to lose.
Right, and if I lost a match and I walk up to that, after that the umpire says game, set, match to my opponent, I still have to find it in me, no matter how upset I am.
Right. You can't throw your racket. Right.
No matter how much I could have broken like 10 rackets during the game.
Exactly.
But at the end of the game, and some of my best friends were my most fiercest competitors.
That's right.
On the tennis court.
That's right.
But on the field of play, you compete, you do what you got to do to knock off your opponent. But when the game is done, you still have to go to that net and shake their hands.
That's right.
Look them in the eye, shake their hands, and if they were the better player, say, congratulations, you played a good game.
That's
you
right.
know?
That's right.
And I think that's what we need to see from our politicians. We need to raise that standard. We don't want to see this gutter politics. We want to be able to raise our standard. And most importantly, we have to start raising the level of education.
That's right.
So that our people, number one, could start opening gateways for themselves and seeing and recognizing opportunities for themselves. But the government, now the new government, the NDP, of course, I hope they realize, of course, the government is not responsible for doing everything, but they are now responsible for creating an environment.
That's right.
Okay, that allows businesses to flourish, young people to flourish, creatives to flourish, there needs to be an environment that attracts capital.
That's right.
Okay, and some people don't realize that the words that come out of your mouth determines, in many instances, if people want to do business with you or not.
That's right.
That is why communication is key. The way that you communicate, and that's why I keep harping on that topic of really lifting the standard of how we communicate and doing the kind of things that I saw Camilo did and I saw Sobota did. At least they did they did the right thing.
That's right. They did do the right thing.
That is what should be done. Okay, and
Yes.
I give them credit for that. And that's another thing. We need to start to learn, when we start having our political banters back and forth, we need to start to learn to give credit where credit is
Right.
due.
And
Because if you just want to criticize somebody even though they're doing something that's right, you lose credibility
That's
as a
right.
person
That's
for
right.
just criticizing everything. You
Yes.
know, if somebody does something that's right, give credit where credit is due.
Right.
Sure.
You know, I mean, I remember when Ralph Gonsalves went to the United Nations recently, and I mean, he gave
Right.
a phenomenal speech. And I shared it. I know Max Walker would have done the same thing.
Right.
And he was just, I
agree.
mean, people just laid into him for saying that Ralph Gonsalves gave an excellent speech at the United Nations. And I agree with Max. It was a
Right.
phenomenal speech.
Right.
So we need to start being impartial. We can't just, because we don't like someone, that we don't give them credit when credit is due.
That's right.
Right?
I
We
agree.
also need to stop with the attacks. I mean, I've seen, and this is on both sides, I've seen where the NDP and the ULP, I mean, let us stop using profanity at each other. I mean, when I came to St. Vincent, you know, that's all I heard. I was in the market, I'm driving down the street, and you hear young and older people using it. Let us lift our standards. Let us live with morals and dignity and self-respect. You know, one of the things that Dr. Friday said was, you know, he wants to lead a nation with morals, bring the morals back. Let us bring those morals back, right? I remember living in St. Vincent when I was a younger girl. It wasn't this bad.
Right.
Under James
Exactly.
Mitchell, right? This
Yeah.
level, and that comes from proper leadership, when you're an example. And so I'm going to say to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, if you hold a leadership role, whatever that is, have self-respect.
Yes.
And have dignity, have morals.
Yes.
You know, make sure that you engage people. When you see someone going down the wrong road, pull them back.
Yeah. And we're not looking for perfection either.
Right, 'cause
You-
nobody's
no-
perfect.
You're gonna see, because God knows sometimes I feel like
Yes,
using profanity.
that's correct. But you know, we have to hold
but I have
ourselves
to try
back.
to hold myself back and adjust my attitude. But the thing is, and to add to your point, when we were living in St. Vincent, because we grew up together, for those of you who don't know, we actually met in prep school.
At 9 years old.
At 9 years old.
And we're married now for 9 years.
I know we're married for 9 years. So it's amazing how life, you know, turns out sometimes. But back then, we had, I remember, you know, clearly, vividly, we had examples in the community.
That's right.
I grew up in Glen, my house was in Glen, but I couldn't go down to Calico and misbehave.
That's
I
right.
couldn't,
right.
I couldn't do that as
Yeah,
a
you just
youngster.
couldn't.
I mean, people
Yeah.
would pull me up, like,
That's right.
seriously.
Yeah.
And you'll be lucky if you didn't get licks from the neighbors, and then they send you home and you get more licks when you go home. You know, you understand? I'm serious. We couldn't do that kind of stuff, right? You're laughing, but it's true. You know, it's true. But it is what it is. So
Right.
it's a different thing. But the reason I'm saying this, I don't expect you to go and hit people's children now, okay? I don't expect that. But this is what I'm saying, though. The standard was different. People didn't allow.
I think
this
we had
type
more
of-
self-respect.
Yeah, it was
right?
a different type of
and I think
community. We
that-
looked out for each other.
Right, and I think that also came from within our families, that
Yeah.
people had greater respect. And you know, it's unfortunate for me to say this, but there has been a complete moral decay
Yeah.
of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the social problems have not been addressed, the social
Yeah.
ills. When you have a country and you don't address the social ills, a country cannot grow. So it is important that this new government starts focusing on the social problems that are affecting the nation.
Right. And what do you think about the environment in terms of the government providing an economic ladder for people to climb?
So I think right now there was only a few people that were able to climb that economic ladder.
Yeah.
And I looked at the NDP's manifesto. I actually looked at both. I would also say, Vincentians, please read.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I would say about Ralph Gonsalves is that, sometimes he would be on a political platform and he would be given books as gifts.
Yes.
I think I might have a few of his books that he's given to me.
Yes.
And, he always encouraged me to read. So I would encourage you to do the same thing. Read both manifestos, right?
Yeah.
Don't just listen to what they say on their platforms.
Right.
And I believe that the NDP's manifesto is really given the vision where people now can come in. Like the monetization of their social media platforms,
right.
Where people can use PayPal, right?
Yes.
And all these things. And these are things that should have been done. We're in 2025, people.
Yes.
Right? It has always been a concern. Sometimes I do business back and forth with St. Vincent, and that was a big thing. Like, how do I get the money to you? How do I buy your product?
Right.
So I believe that now we as a people, we need to collectively come together, present our expertise.
Yes.
And I heard Dr. Friday saying that he's open to that.
Yes.
And so we will be holding you to that also, Dr. Friday.
Right, absolutely. Because again, it's really important for us at this time, for us to, take a moment. We know we have now changed government, and I would definitely sit back and take a moment and assess where the pieces are, because of course the new government going in, they're going to have to assess, do some type of analysis to see where we are, take a snapshot of where we are, what has happened over the last 25 years, and where did that take us, and look at and count all the chips, see where all the chips are, and then decide what is the best way forward. But I'm sure they're going to prioritize their what they need to get done in the next 60 days,
well, they've made some promises, right? I think it would have been 60 or 90 days to the people.
Yeah.
And you guys need to hold them accountable to that. The promises, I think it was a little card that Dr. Friday and others were giving out, his promises. So you guys hold them accountable to those promises.
Absolutely.
And I will say that it's going to take time for them to be able to, to see where the government is presently.
Yeah.
And how are they going to really truly unfold some of that, and now to make it better for the Vincentian people. So don't expect this to happen overnight.
Right. I don't think the change is going to happen overnight, of course, but it's going to require some painstaking reviews and an analysis of what has happened over the past
25
years, because we know one of the things that the population has not been satisfied with is transparency and accountability.
Right. So there hasn't been that, the lack of accountability,
exactly.
Right? And so that's why I keep talking about accountability, because that's one of the things that a lot of Vincentians, I have a lot of you on my social media. I've read many articles that have been written, and that's one of the things that you guys are asking for, is for the accountability. So we cannot move forward until we have that accountability.
Right.
Is that a forensic audit that Dr. Friday and his team spoke about?
Yeah.
We would like to see the forensic audit.
Yeah.
And so that needs to be executed, right? And I mean, I will say, because I try to be an impartial person. Yes, Ralph Gonsalves would have done some good for the country.
Yeah.
I must say that I commend him on the airport. I mean, it was crazy to fly to Barbados, and then you don't know if you're going to get your suitcase.
Yeah.
And then so now we have an international airport. Well, we have to make that international airport work for us. We have to make that port work for us. We should, as a nation, I mean, St. Vincent, we have to revive our agricultural sector.
Yeah.
Okay? It is the bread basket of that nation.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to revive that. Sometimes, here in Florida, sometimes I go to the store and you see breadfruit and all these things in pepper sauce. I want to see on the shelves when I go into a store in Florida that it comes from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You see it from all the other countries.
Yeah,
why
absolutely.
can we not see that from St. Vincent? And we need to support our farmers. They are the ones that feed us.
Yes.
We need to reduce our import bill. It is way too high.
For a country that with the level, the high quality soil that we have, and it's insane for us to be importing.
Yeah, we shouldn't be
so
importing
many
those things,
you know,
right?
That we cannot literally grow in our backyard or rear in our backyard, from chickens to goats to all these different different things.
Yes.
There should be, and this is kind of goes back to, you know, of course, seeing where all the chips are. I think one of the things that has been really funny to me, and I think this is one of the things that Ralph Gonsalves has, is he's not accepting that he really got beat. And if the ULP is going to survive, they're going to have to get to the point where they first of all could acknowledge how they got beat and why they got beat, because you got to trash it, right? So something has to be wrong. You have to acknowledge that you did something wrong, okay? And by just building, and I think Camilo in his speech kind of alluded to this, you know, he thought that building projects, and I saw this, I even called it on the radio stations on Boom many times and talked about this, because building projects is great, is one thing. But first of all, there needs to be proper processes to ensure during the construction of that project that your people are benefiting from the construction.
That's right.
Not only from the end product or the end user side, the very construction of that project, and then afterwards the administration and the maintenance of it. Okay, we need to ensure that our people are benefiting from that, and not just the structural side of things. We need to have programs that develop our people, and that's where we go back to the education side.
That's correct.
Okay, because if you just have
and
one
when you
set
speak of education, it can't just be having a degree. Right, because
no, specific knowledge.
Yes, specific
knowledge. Not general knowledge, because
yes.
a lot of people will go and say, oh, I have a degree in this.
Right.
But you need to have specific, specialized knowledge if you're really going to increase your income.
That's
you know, so you can build a hospital, but you need good nurses, you need good doctors, you need programs that would incubate people from the very beginning. You know, from having their associates and whatever, so they can have a track that goes straight towards becoming a doctor or a good nurse.
I think the country is in a complete brain drain.
Yeah.
Right.
So many people have left.
So many people have left who can contribute to the development of this nation. And so, you know, going back to what my husband said is, you know, we can't just build buildings without, you know, we can't build buildings and not have the infrastructure in place to maintain those things, right? And so, you know, you need to have all the pieces for that building now to be functional, like a hospital, right? You need to make sure, and you need competency. So we need competent people that know what they're doing, and they're not just getting a paycheck, because of course your tax dollars pays these individuals, right? But they need to be competent and they need to be driven. And when they don't have an answer for something, they need to ask someone else. Yeah,
you need to know where to get.
You need to know where to get that information from. You cannot know everything. I don't know everything.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that you were seeing on the ULP side. You basically you were just seeing like a one-man show.
Correct.
And that's why you could see the stress on Ralph's face, because you first of all, as a leader, in my view, your number one responsibility as a leader is to build other leaders.
That's
Isn't
correct.
it? I'm sure you would agree with
100%.
Because
100%.
if everything keeps falling back on you and everybody has to come to you to get everything done, you can't run a country. You can't even run a household like that.
Right. And you
so
know,
it's like who you could run a government like?
It is truly unfortunate, because anything that you wanted to get done in that country, you had to go to him. Yeah, you had to go to Ralph Gonsalves. And so, that can't work. As my husband said, you have to build other leaders.
Absolutely.
You have to teach people what leadership is. Yeah. Right? And I think that was one of the biggest problems, because he could never pass it on to anybody else. Right? Because he was in complete control. Right. You know, and I hope that he has learned something from this. I mean, you know, he's 79 years old, and you know, whenever I reach out to him, he's always very, very receptive to me, both him and Dr. Friday. And I will say, you know, I'm going to say Uncle Ralph. Yeah. Uncle Ralph, I hope you've learned from this. I hope that you understand what it is to truly build other leaders. Yeah. And I hope that you can now. You know, I know that you were in opposition for a very long time. As I said, I've known you since I was.
He was in government for a long time.
Yes, in government, but no, in opposition.
He was also, before. Yes.
He was in opposition for a very long time. I know when he was in opposition. I was living in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Yeah. And so you're going back into opposition, but I think maybe this is your time to put forward a new leader. if you want the party to exist.
Yeah.
Because, you know, people are very unhappy and they're disgruntled. And, you know, we can't continue like this, right? We need to be able, and here it is. It's good for a political party to have opposition.
Oh, yeah,
right?
absolutely.
It's very important.
Absolutely.
It's important for any democracy.
Right.
Right? But we need to sometimes reflect and look within. You know, I write a journal, so sometimes I reflect and look within because it's really important. You know, the way that we conduct ourselves, and, you know, I always say when you're a leader, you must be an example.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I brought the point, I raised that point, because we are going to need some type of opposition to have checks and balances in the country. You know, you know, it's good that there's an overwhelming victory for the NDP, because in my view, I would have voted for the NDP too, because of I wasn't satisfied with the trajectory of where the country, where our people were going, our people, and how our people were being treated.
Yes.
We had a few projects. Of course, I love the airport, because of course, come on, I would love to fly home directly anytime.
Yes.
The port is good. All these projects are good. It's not bad, but what was happening to our people? You know,
they were neglected. They were completely neglected.
That's the problem.
And you know, the country just spiraled into this excess poverty.
Poverty.
You know, you saw it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the teacher, Mr. Dennis, who lost his job because he wouldn't take the vaccine.
Yeah.
I mean, I took the vaccine. My husband took the vaccine.
Yeah.
But you know, it's where I believe people should have a choice, right? And there could have been mechanisms put in place for people who didn't want to take the vaccine. It happened here in the United States at the time I used to work for the government, and we had mechanisms in place in the Department of Family Services where we allowed people to still come to work who were not vaccinated. And so, you know, I mean, you know, Dennis, the teacher, you know, where him and his young son was living. I mean, it was just, I cried.
It's heartbreaking.
It's very, very heartbreaking to
Yeah.
see the high level of poverty. And the Vincentians, I want you to uplift yourself. I want you to hold your government accountable. And we do have some young people in the NDP that we know. I am looking to you to really deliver and hold your older colleagues accountable. Tell them this is what we promised our people.
Right.
And we want to deliver this to our people.
Yeah, and we have work to do in the present. We have a country to build, but we definitely need leaders that are going to make us proud. You know, we want every Vincentian to be proud to say that they associate themselves with a particular leader, and they're proud to have this person leading their country. When we get to the point where we are not proud to have somebody as leader because of their conduct or because of their party's conduct, that's not a road that we want to go down. But as I said again, for the ULP's sake, they're going to have to take some time to acknowledge why they got beat so badly, you know, and bring themselves a little more into the future. A matter of fact, bring themselves into the present.
Into the present,
because
that's correct.
I think the NDP give them such a trashing because the NDP control the marketing. They did a fabulous job. Whoever their marketing
100%.
team is, they did a
I
fabulous job
will
on
say that they did their campaign strategy was
they stepped it up a notch.
They stepped it up a notch.
Definitely.
I will say, Laverne King, you did a phenomenal job. Kudos to you, Colin Graham.
Yes, Colin Graham.
You know,
too.
you guys, yes, you guys really pushed forward and delivered a very clean and smooth campaign.
Yeah.
And so I really, really commend you. It wasn't, you know, all this hate speech and anger and, you know, throwing words at people, but you guys really presented yourself
You see
very
the power, the internet is powerful, man.
It's very powerful.
I mean, as far as I see it right now, it's, as I say, I know Ralph used to call, I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but, you know, I know Ralph used to refer to people as internet crazies.
Yeah, but it's such a powerful tool.
But it's a powerful tool.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
as far as I see it, internet crazies, 14 seats, Ralph won.
Yeah.
You know, that's really what win the election.
Yes,
you know,
definitely.
it's the internet, man.
Yes, the internet,
because
definitely.
when people
and the
can pick up-
diaspora played
That's
such
what
a
I'm
major
saying.
role. And so, let me say here, big up to the diaspora people, wherever you're living. You guys really pushed forward, and I really commend all of you in the diaspora. You guys did a phenomenal job.
Yeah. So, I'd like to wrap up now. So, in closing, what is your major takeaway from this entire election cycle? What do you think, as somebody who's a young and upcoming Vincentian, should take away from their experience having gone through this election cycle?
Well, I will say that Dr. Friday's style of leadership is very commendable. Yeah. He's such a humble person and also very respectful. Whenever I see him, he's very, very kind and respectful to me. And I would say the same for Ralph, very kind and respectful to me. However, I would say that, the ULP needs to understand that you cannot become complacent.
Yeah.
And you cannot be arrogant. You cannot treat your people with such disdain. These are the people who elect you. These are the people who put you in power. And so that message also goes to the NDP.
Oh, yeah.
They have given you 14 seats. Do not disrespect them. Do not treat them as if they're animals. Treat them with dignity. They are Vincentians, and they deserve to live well.
Exactly.
They deserve to be able to feed their children and look after themselves. They deserve to be business owners. They deserve to be young entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
They deserve to be also politicians.
Exactly.
Right? And so I would say that, I hope that the ULP has truly learned from this. You guys need to sit back and you guys need to reflect on where you went wrong. I saw a lot of things in the campaign where they just treated people like garbage. I'm sorry to say that. Yeah. But the disrespect was very profound. And we can't do that. Let us learn to say sorry. Right? Let us learn to know that we're not always right. We're not perfect. I am not a perfect human being. But I believe that being complacent is where they thought that they had so much power that the power will never leave them.
Right.
But I'll tell you this. Sometimes we're planning, but God is a master of planners. Vincentians, I truly wish you the very best. Hold your governments accountable. Hold this government accountable. To Dr. Friday and his team, I will be holding you accountable.
Yeah.
And we look forward to having a relationship with you guys and being able to lend our expertise in whatever way that we can.
Right. And in closing, what I would say is, I've always been taught that we owe people, as leaders, we owe people two things. We owe people an opportunity, and we also owe people an example. Okay? So when you've given now the NDP has now given themselves an opportunity, or the people have now given you an opportunity. The question now becomes, what example are you going to set?
That's right.
For the nation? What example are you going to develop in the minds of the people over the next 5 years? And what example and what legacy you're going to leave for children even unborn to follow and to mold themselves into as Vincentians, so that they can continue to be proud not only of the new structures and the new infrastructure that we see around us, because I'm sure that is going to come, but what is the example that we're going to leave in the hearts of every single young Vincentian, young and old, actually? Because I really truly believe it's not only what we leave to people, because we can leave money to people, we can leave assets to people, we can leave buildings to people, but what's really going to carry our nation into the future is what we leave in our people, what we leave in the hearts of our people. And that comes down to our training, our morality, and the standards that we implement and that we hold ourselves to. And it's not easy, though. As we said, none of us are perfect people. Nobody here is perfect, but we just have to strive for better and strive for more, and stay connected. And I think there's so many people now in the diaspora who would love to go home, who who would love, and that's another thing that's kind of made me a little bit sad too, right? That there's so many people who stayed away from St. Vincent because of you know, the current environment that existed, you know, for so long. But hopefully, yeah, there's a new dawn, and we start seeing better and better examples, not only of the governance, but better and better examples of our citizens, you know,
That's right.
raising themselves up and raising each other up as we move forward into the future.